Welcome to Don't Pick the Scab podcast, the podcast that helps men over 40 in their divorce recovery struggles. We are welcoming David Nordel back to the show. David's superpowers are military transitions through his Vet Ready program and leadership development. And divorce is a transition, huge transition.
Yeah.
He's had a distinguished Air Force career with experiences in emergency management, veteran transitions, PTSD, and mental health challenges. He has written 2 books, Giving Back Life and Leadership from the Farm to the Combat Zone and Beyond, and When the Cows Lie Down, The Reason People Quit You, Their Leader. Come on. Come on. Here we go. Thank God for editing.
Amen.
Come on. Once again, I contacted David because I felt he could help my men struggling from their recovery from divorce. Divorce is a type of battle of war, so to speak. So I think he has a really good field of this. So introduce yourself, David, and we'll go from there. Got a couple questions for you.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Don't Pick the Scab podcast with the premise of connecting men over 40 with the tools and community to thrive in their divorce recovery either before, during, or after a divorce.
Yeah, you bet. No, I appreciate your introduction and, less on me and kind of more on where I'm at. It's did a long military career. And if you don't think through leading airmen, soldiers, sailors, and Marines, no matter where I was at in the world, if you don't think divorce and relationships weren't in the forefront of that, especially the immediate throes of what that does to people, and try doing that from 3,000 miles away when they're apart and you have catastrophic failure in a relationship. So that's some real stuff. And, now, Doc, now I'm working really hard on doing something that's really hard. And that's my own transition. I've been retired from the military 11 years. I did some traditional work, what we say in the civilian world, did some traditional work that wasn't working for me. It wasn't really compatible with my PTSD journey, my moral injury journey. It took me a while to figure that out. Did some things on my own, the Vet Ready stuff, which still exists. But what I found out is I'm not in a situation where I have to chase the almighty dollar, so why chase it? And so why not give back, like the title of the book? And so here I am in this transition phase, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about this for your folks. But here I am in this transition phase, and I find myself on a daily journey of giving myself permission to do things that probably we didn't give ourselves permission to do because of some stereotypical approach by society, some box that we're put into as a man and those type of things. And so in that context, if you put it in relationship to your audience, right? So there's guys listening to this that are either struggling in their relationship, right on the throes of divorce, been divorced a year, and they're trying to refine a new relationship or wherever they're at in all of this. Foundationally, it's counterintuitive for men, the way we're raised, and it's counterintuitive for men to admit weakness, admit sadness, admit a little bit of shame, admit some guilt, and feel kind of lost in the wilderness. What do I do now? I was 20 and I did the 20-year-old traditional stuff. Maybe I went to college. Let's use you for an example. You went to college, you knew you wanted to be a dentist. You went to college, you went to dental school, you started your business. Somewhere in there, you met a woman and got married or had a significant other. Whatever it is, you do these things because that's kind of what happens, right? You're 28 to 32, you have your first child, all that kind of stuff. You do all of that, and then all of a sudden you wake up one day and either you've made a mistake, it's your indiscretions, whatever it be. Another woman, what are the big three? Poor finances, infidelity, and I'm looking for job, time. Yeah, it's time. It's job. Yeah. It's just it's who you are, and now you identify. And a lot of people identify their manlyhood with this running a family, providing for people, raising children. It's stuff you talk about. When you run into somebody, they say, "Hey, what are you up to?" And you go, "Oh, well, the dental office is running great. I've got great clientele, and the kids. One kid's graduating high school, and the other one's just finished a recital, and we were over here in the baseball game." You do all of that stuff. And divorce yanks that away because, first of all, you don't have the narrative anymore because there's a separation. with the kids, with that family piece. So when you're having that conversation that you traditionally had, instead of instead of being honest with everybody and yourself, instead of saying, hey, I've got how's what are you up to? Well, work's fine, but I don't, my personal life is out of balance. I'm in the midst of a divorce. I got divorced a year ago. I haven't seen my kids in a while. These are we just don't do that socially, and it's damaging because you walk away with this guilt or shame or whatever you want to heap onto yourself, which is unnecessary, but we do it to ourselves as flogging. And so right now, where I'm at in my journey is through retirement, and I've stopped identifying with work. And you know what my purpose is? My purpose is wherever the Lord Jesus Christ puts me and gives me the
Uh-huh.
ability to affect people. Period. So in some ways, I don't even know what that is, but I have to have enough faith, and I do, that I will get the opportunities. I had a great one yesterday on my podcast. I won't belabor you with it, but it was an amazing thing. And when it was all over and done with, I thought I could not have created that any better. And I definitely had no hand in
No,
it, but it happened. So
gotcha.
you have to have some faith in the future.
So you were talking about men having to give themselves permission to cry, permission to feel emotions, things that they're not used to. How can they flip that script in order to give themselves permission, you think?
Well, I think that the number one reason is that they don't give themselves permission is because their life team that's around them, doesn't create an environment that's okay.
Interesting.
And so you got to do some diagnostics on your team. So most men are sports fans of some kind of sport. Most, not all. Some are fans of classical music. It doesn't matter. If you go to an opera or a classical music presentation or football game, when you see two teams playing and one team is doing better than the other team, and you do some diagnostics, you'll say, boy, they need better linebackers, or they need a better second fiddle, or a better cello, or they need something that they're missing something. And
Uh-huh.
so, what does that team do? That team recognizes that, and they go to the second fiddle or the cello player or the linebacker, and they say, we're trading you, we're cutting you, or whatever. And they put somebody else in that position. We don't do this on our life team. We just let our life team flow naturally. Well, it's my brother. Well, it's my sister. Well, it's my mother. It's my father. It's my best friend since high school. It's I my podcast yesterday was with a 15-year-old entrepreneur that when he was given his keys to kind of his success, and he's doing really well. When he's given the keys to some of his success, he said, "I had to give up my friends."
Wow.
Well, they really weren't friends, because at a
Yep.
certain point in time they stopped being friends and they actually started being friendly to you because they didn't create an environment where they appreciated you for what you were. They created an environment where, even though you're trying to do something productive for yourself, it was a negative.
Uh-huh.
It's peer pressure, right? It's why aren't you 16-year-olds, why aren't you drinking a beer? Well, I don't want to drink a beer. Well, if you don't drink a beer, you're this, and the name calling goes, and we're not going to hang out with you, and go over there, and they ostracize you. And the normal thing to do is to cave to that because you want to belong to something and you don't even understand what you want. So if you choose to live in an environment that doesn't allow you to cry and have grace and understanding and empathy for you, if you choose to surround yourself with people that are not supportive, that are judgmental, that especially there's certain religions and there's certain areas in our society that people look at divorce and they go, oh, you're weak, you failed, you screwed that all up, and so on and so forth. Well, not necessarily. The second book is about quitting, and there's good quitting. There's quitting. There's kind of neutral quitting, and then there's bad quitting. We were raised only with bad quitting, Dave. Especially our generation. Anything that had anything to do with quitting. My mother used to tell me, "You can do anything you want. You can start anything you want. Come home, tell me you want to join the chess club, but you will never quit. You will finish it. If you finish out the year and you hated it and you don't want to go back, that's fine, but you will never quit." And I thought to myself, that isn't really fair, right? Because what if I'm in a situation that I've stepped into, and now I've got this absolute that I have to stay in it, and it's damaging me, and I don't have the option to walk away. So divorce is the big Q word, right? In the scarlet letter world, now you've got this big Q, the F and the Q, right? Failed quitter in life, and one of the most important things we do, and that's maintaining a relationship. And amazingly, those that are judging us are probably either guilty of the same thing that we have or guilty of something else that's even more severe. And misery loves company, so they jump all over that because it's a
Yep.
distraction off of what they're doing. So get those people out of your life, fire them. And oh, by the way, if that person happens to be your brother, then tell your brother that you love them, but they're not contributing to you, so they're fired. They don't have rights. They don't have rights to walk into your life and shake their finger at you and beat you down into some hole. If somebody truly loves you and cares about you, they will lift you up at the darkest and darkest of times, and they will find something
Definitely true.
positive to give to you. So when I talk about giving yourself permission is, if you can't give yourself grace, if you can't give yourself permission, and if you can't look inside and celebrate the positive things that you've accomplished in life and understand that sometimes being part of a man is working through adversity and how you handle that. If you can't do that, then you're stuck, because you and I can't help them, Dave.
How does that person get unstuck?
Well, first of all, you got to put your ego in your pocket. You got to put your pride in your other pocket. You got to ask for some help.
Yep. Therapy.
You got to ask for some help. And my therapist was kind of celebrating me the other day, because she just goes, "Wow." Look where you're at from when we started. And I said, "Well," and we go through a variety of things. It all starts with your formative years, right? All of us. We go
Yep.
back, and our parents did some wonderful things for us, and they damaged us in other ways. And it just is what it is. And I've raised two boys, and there's something in them that I screwed up at some point in time, and I own that. And we talk about those things at points in time. But but the celebratory thing was, is this: she goes, "Now you're ready to take. Now you're ready. Now you're actually, you've gone through all the preliminaries and you've made it to the final heat. You get to run for the gold medal now, because you've cleared all the obstacles
Wow.
to move forward." Well, shoot, I'm going to be 60 in a couple of days. Am I a little late in the game? I don't know. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because my tomorrows are more productive, more liberating. I have more energy because I spend less of it beating myself up. And I am more productive for other people in my passion of wanting to do that. I am more productive for other people because I have most men
Yeah.
want to find their answers in a bottle of scotch and some bartender that's an unqualified psychologist. And that's not good. It's not good. That's not healthy. It's going backwards.
So we all have hidden potential, the hidden potential within. How can, or what are some of the ways a divorced man over 40 tap that, recognize those tendencies or those habits or reactions?
I'm going to default to a couple of things. You really got to turn your ears on. You got to go. The difference between listening and hearing are two different things, and you have to do both. And then you have to slow down your mind enough to comprehend.
Mhm.
And you've been hearing it your whole life, and reflect on. I'll give you a simple drill to do, especially when you're facing adversity with your quote unquote manlyhood and all the things that we're supposed to do. Men should be men. They should be protectors. They should be providers. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
men need to be men. They need to be masculine. They need to be in front of things. If something needs to be fixed, it should be their knuckles that are bleeding, not somebody else. That's just the way it is. That's the way it is.
But
But but you have to better understand. Geez, I don't want to totally get people. I don't want to lose your train of thought. You've got to understand yourself through what your
mhm,
external feedback is, right? It's this white
yeah.
noise. And sometimes your self-esteem drops to a point where you're not able to accept anything. So for example, let's do this. I see a toolbox behind you, back there to your right. So you do things, right? You woodwork, or you fix things, or you do stuff, right? Beyond dentistry. If you're a good woodworker, I'm going to call you and I'm going to say, "Gosh, I know a guy," right? What are the things about your personality, about your presence, about why people want you around? What are those things that people say about you when you're not there, or that you hear casually? What are those things? Because you need to latch onto those. Those are your foundational points. Those are your strengths. Those are your go-to things over and over and over again. This is my reality now. I got myself into spaces. For instance, Dave, if I had to sell cars for a living, I would starve to death.
I don't think so.
I'm not a salesman.
No.
I'm an activator. Somebody can say, "What do you think about this?" I can, in my mind, that quick. I can have it organized. I can have a structure to it. I can diagnose people that are good at all the things, and I can get it all lined up, and I can cheerlead it across the line. But
That's
there's some,
part of being a salesman.
but some of that Here's the part that I would be at. Here's the part that I would be bad at. I probably wouldn't wash the car at the right time, or I probably would miss telling him about the special transmission or that kind of stuff, because I'd be so excited about getting to the end game
Yep.
that I wouldn't do the little nuance things in between. And there's people that are great at the nuance. I guess it's the difference between being a general dentist and being a orthodontist. You
Yep.
know, and so and so uh, the reason I say that is that people are going to recognize your foundational traits that are things that you should use to springboard out of any type of adversity all the time. They're going to recognize those, and they're actually going to say them, except that we run right by them. We're either going too fast in life, we're too mired in our own self-pity, we are victims and not owners of our situation.
Mm.
Huge one. Number one.
Big
Number
time.
one. You live in victimhood, you will not get out. You have got to stand up and take responsibility for whatever your part is. Understand what you don't control. My therapist one time drew a circle on a whiteboard, and then she drew arrows going out around the whole circle, 360 degrees. And she said, everything in your life that you control is inside this circle. Whatever it is, what you eat, all those things, all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. It's what you control. How fast you drive your car, you control that. All you control all those things. She goes, everything outside of life is stuff that you can't control. Modern day, Israel, Iran, riots in LA, whatever it is, you can't control. She goes, you spend so much time living outside of this circle, burning up all this energy, and you can't control it. You've got to get inside of the circle and control what you can control. And when we go through things like divorce, we start thinking about stuff like, well, I wonder if she's going to get the house. What is she doing? Is she with another guy? Da, 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 da. This is for men. What are the kids doing? Are the kids getting, is this guy acting? You can't control any of that. Be the best
Nope.
father. Be the best father you can when you're with the kids.
Exactly.
If you're going to have another woman in your life, you better make sure she aligns with all the things that are important to you, to include your children and all. Control those things. All of the rest of it, you got to let it go, because you only have a finite amount of energy. And if you're burning up energy on things that you can't do anything about, then you're probably ineffective in the important.
That's it, Dave. Thank you for listening, pal. But hey, I think you'd be an excellent salesman because you could close that deal without doing all the fluff in the middle, but you would close that freaking deal, man. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No doubt. No doubt.
Well, I love you for saying that. I love you for saying that.
One of the big things that my men struggle with is not being able to control what happens at the ex's house. That is huge.
Yeah.
That is one of the things that they mention to me most of the time. And speak to that. Give them some advice to let that crap go.
Well, so here's the deal. And okay, so first of all, here's the permission to your audience. This is not easy, and you're not going to get it right the first time. But our first, especially men, we're pretty simple actually. We're almost like Neanderthals when it comes to this, because we do one of two things, right? We either run and hide, or we get mad. That's it. We either go lock ourselves away so nobody can pass judgment on us, and that usually equates to drinking by yourself in your chair with the blinds pulled, or you get mad, and everything that you put, and then you're mad at everything. You're not just mad at the fact that your ex-wife's got a new guy, or the kids want to live with mommy, or any of that type of stuff. And the only reason that we get mad or we isolate ourselves is because we're embarrassed, because it's this blow to this thing that is innocuous. It's not even a tangible thing that we hold on to. And it's that ego.
Ego
It's the
is rough.
pride. And if you're prideful, if you think getting angry and using adjectives to describe your ex, put this. Now, my ex is on her fourth husband. I was number two. That's probably how she refers to me. I'm sure she probably doesn't even remember. We were only married 5. I call her the Sasquatch, Dave. And I've just given her that name. But this is how I introduce her to people when I want to talk about this part of my life. Okay?
And it's not really negative. It's
No.
not negative. Yeah.
But you know what it was? When I married her, I didn't know what I was marrying until after I was married. So she was kind of like this, the magic of the Sasquatches. Everybody's heard about them. Nobody's seen them. And so when I was going through, we get mad, and what we want to say is, my ex is a Sasquatch, because people say things like, oh, she was so wonderful. I never had a problem with her. Of course you didn't have a problem with her. You weren't married to her.
Yep.
When the doors of the house shut, you didn't see things, right?
Yep.
And you want to scream that at the top of your lungs. Does no good. Nobody cares. That's why I introduced her as Sasquatch. People are like, Sasquatch? Why is this Sasquatch? And I said, well, because everybody knows about it, but nobody's ever seen it. And so in my reality, that's kind of what she was. I was like, holy cow, I've actually seen a Sasquatch, and here's the pictures. And people go, no, I don't believe it because, that's not how it's portrayed. Now, there's a whole, I have piles of responsibility for that. So
Yep.
I'm not saying it was all on her, but that's where I'm at with that. Here's the deal. And this is not just divorce, Dave. This is every time that we're down in the world. How easy is it for you to pull even your best friend? How easy is it to do you have a friend in life? And I have a few. Do you have a friend in life that you can pull into their driveway, knock on their door? They open the door and they say, how's it going? And you say, I need to talk. And you sit down and go, and you just lay it out.
Yep.
I'm mad. I'm sad. The tears roll out of your eye. Whatever it is, to lay it all out there and have somebody listen, empathetically listen and say, okay, now where are we going to go from here? Get all that out. Now where are we going to go from here? Which goes back to the circle. Because the only place to focus is on what can I control. Once you're divorced, you certainly can't control your ex. But when they want to push the button, this was my ex is the best at this. She was the best at pushing buttons. She took me to places of anger that I've never been, that I was with her, that I've never been to before, even in a combat zone. Never. I've never been that
Damn.
mad. That mad. And I can understand why people make really bad decisions, snap
Got
decisions that are life
that.
altering.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so don't give them the satisfaction. It's like dealing with narcissists. Narcissists push buttons all the time and they get all of their food from driving your emotions and controlling it. Don't let them do it. Have enough
I have
respect
to
for
tell you
yourself,
a
Dave.
story. I have to tell you a story. So when I was in the throes of my divorce and it was getting ugly, I had my friend come and take all my guns. I said, Kim, come get my guns and take them to your house and don't give them to me until I sign the papers. Yeah, because I didn't want that. Not that I was thinking about it, but I didn't want that choice to happen. 'Cause like you said, man, that anger, you see red, and yeah,
Red, real red, the
oh yeah,
true red. Let's flip the script here a little bit and hypothesize. Let's say that this was a woman's show, and I was giving advice as the woman divorcee to women. Here's what I would tell women. Your inherent default is revenge. It's anger and it's revenge.
yeah,
Scorn. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. There's a reason why that's Shakespearean. There's a reason why it's there, right? And I would say, get off of revenge and get on with your life. However, this is the problem, and this is what we don't control. When they're mad and they start down the revenge thing, what do they go after? They go after the things that men prize the most:
yep.
their money, their things, their status, their all of this stuff, to include their
Anything that hurt, anything that hurt.
reputation. My ex-wife, I was
Yep.
I was actually deployed in Saudi Arabia when the whole thing went down on the divorce, and she packed up everything that I owned in the car that I was going to keep and parked it in the first parking spot next to the entrance of where I worked. Packed it. Looked like the Beverly Hillbillies. And it was
Man,
and it was going to sit there for another 3 or 4 months. A good buddy of mine called and said, "Hey man, what's the deal with your car?" And I said, "Well, she told me she threw the keys in the mailbox." He goes, "Well, I'm going to go get the keys and move your car because
it's got a lot of shit in it.
it's a thing, and everybody you work with gets to walk by it every single morning because it's right there."
My
Now,
God,
do you think that was an accident?
no, no, yeah.
No,
So I have a friend,
right?
and he's also a dentist, and he he had a couple of things happen. So they were in negotiations and he was working 4 days a week. And his ex was petitioning to the arbitrator to make him work one more day a week so she could get one more day of alimony. Dude, seriously, come
Sure.
on.
But you know who helped her? You know who helped her with that? Her lawyer.
Her lawyer. Yeah. Yeah.
Her lawyer. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'll bet you, there's always a line. I bet you the judge probably drew the line on
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah. He said no. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah, but
yeah, I'm pretty happy, but it's that revenge thing is like they just want to hurt you, and the big thing about you flipping the script, there's like thousands of women and divorce podcasts, and there's only just a handful of men divorce
Yeah.
podcasts. So
Because men don't want to talk about it.
yep.
It's our scarlet letter. You should see. I'm telling you, I'm so comfortable with it. I'll be in rooms I'm meeting people, even literally for the first time, and I'll say it just like this: when I was married to the Sasquatch, and I would just tell whatever story it is, and people are. I mean, you want to talk about freezing. You want to talk about freezing a room, and everybody
Uh-huh.
looking at me, and the people that know start laughing, and inevitably somebody will have my back, and they'll just go, "The Sasquatch is Dave's first wife."
Yeah.
And they go, "You call her that?" And I said, "Well, if the
Well,
shoe, if the
they see it from a different venue. They see it from the look and the size. They
yeah,
don't see it from the view that you saw it.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. And
Yeah.
so, um, but when I do that, you know what that is? You know what that is, Dave? Here's the level of progression with that. I own it. It is going to be part of me forever. You know, divorce papers. When you get them, you hang on to those and you protect them just like you do your social security card, your birth certificate, your DD 214 if you've been in the military. It's one of those pieces of paper that you hang on to,
Yep.
especially women because they need it if they're doing name changes and all this. So it's a thing and it's part of you forever. And when you're digging through all of your important papers, you're going to run across that doggone thing, and
It's like, thank you.
it's going to invoke some memories. If you own it, you pick up the papers and you go, "Oh, this is the Sasquatch file."
Oh, I love that. How about my men out there struggling with co-parenting? Talk to them.
Love your
Sometimes
kids.
parenting space is just brutal. My thing was love my kids more than I hated my ex. That
Yeah.
got me through it.
Send your kids, when you send them back, give them nothing else to talk about other than love and joy. Don't talk about your ex.
Yep.
And if you
Definitely.
have to, and if you have to talk about your ex, talk about whatever redeeming qualities they have. So that the only thing that your kids can say, because you know what, they'll become your champion. If you really ever want to have influence in the house, if you're just stuck on that and you got to have some influence in the house, influence the kids in a positive fashion so that when they go back, the only
Yep.
thing that's said about you is something that's positive. And oh, by the way, show your kids something that you didn't have the opportunity to show them because your relationship kept you from doing it. That's a positive. That's how you win. If there's such thing as winning and losing, that's how you win.
Yeah, my deal was when I had we did the week on, week off, change on Sundays. My deal was to be the best father I could be when I had them, and then not become a jack in the box dad when they left. Go back in the thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
work on myself when they were gone,
yeah,
and then when they came back, be the best father I could be.
yeah.
And it was so much fun. Now they're 32, 31, 29, and we have a great relationship.
I love it.
I'm very blessed.
Yeah. Well, my boys are with my wife now. That's the other thing. That's the other thing, folks. I got divorced when I was 28. Got remarried fairly quickly, but divorced when I was 20. There's hope. Use the failure to understand what what the Cinderella looks like. Sasquatch? Cinderella, right?
Every time you say that, man, I just want to laugh.
Well,
Damn.
it gets a lot of giggles in the room. And oh, by the way, I get a lot of people have little Sasquatch stickers on their cars and stuff like that
Yeah.
because it's just a
Oh yeah.
thing. In fact, I'm a Miami Dolphins fan, and in my front window, I have a Sasquatch with carrying a Dolphins flag. So people don't even understand there's a duality to that. But yeah, so the Sasquatch gets to look outside. So,
Oh man.
yeah, but
So question. So do your ex and you have a relationship now? Is it
no,
friendly? No?
no, and I could belabor you with a really long, very very sad story about what continued after the divorce. But
Yeah, that's okay. Yep.
um, yeah, and here's what I will tell. Here's what I'll
And
tell
that's
folks.
okay. That's okay. Yeah.
I think men need to be as brushed up on narcissism as
Mhm.
male narcissists kind of dress like narcissists. They kind of carry themselves. You're in a healthcare field. It's full of them. How many
Yep.
dentists?
Oh
How many
God,
how
yeah.
many how many dentists do you know that are full blown narcissists? Right?
You're not even a real doctor, man. Chill.
Right. Well, right, exactly. So
Yeah.
that's damaging on the home front, especially if they've got all these gaps in their own
Yeah.
self
Correct.
perception. But there's a lot of women out there that are narcissistic, and they compensate for their pain. whatever that was when they were younger, how their mother treated them, how their father treated them, or maybe both their parents were narcissistic. Whatever it is that drives them to do
Yep.
that is really painful for you. And you need to be able to diagnose that. You need to be able to diagnose narcissism, and then you have to learn how to find vampire terms. You got to find the garlic to get that off of you. A lot of times divorces end in that because it's unreconcilable because narcissists don't compromise. They
Yep.
twist, they turn, they'll do little things that look like a compromise, but then that's not their end goal. Their end goal is to manipulate. This is where good quitting comes in, because living with a narcissist will kill you, literally. It will physically deplete you to the point where you make bad enough decisions and you become unhealthy. And when you become unhealthy, then you can't do some of the other stuff we talked about.
It's a no-win situation. Wow. Well, David, my man have about a half hour attention span.
Yeah,
Well, that was fun, man. That was way
yeah.
different than what I thought. That was so much fun.
It's what I do. I actually have these conversations for real with real people going through these real
Man,
things. So.
you got me giggling. I'm gonna have to go online and find me a Sasquatch
Yeah,
shirt.
I think you probably need one in the background.
Hey, next time we do this, I promise you there will one be in the background.
Okay, hang on for a second. I'll treat you. Hang on.
Oh my gosh, that is awesome. Oh my god, you got me crying.
Let's
Damn.
see. Everybody should have one of these if you've got a Sasquatch in your life.
The fact that you're a Miami Dolphins fan even makes it worse. I mean, better. I'm sorry.
Well, here's the thing. I'm also an owner of that. I've been a victim my whole life of being a Dolphins fan, but I'm learning to own it. It's painful.
Well, I had an ugly beginning of the year, man, because I'm from Kansas City, and
Oh yeah,
I didn't a party too long at the Super Bowl. They didn't show up at all. That just broke
yeah.
my heart. Oh,
Well,
that was just
at least you're in it. I grew up in Northern California, so I'm a Dolphins fan because I hated the Raiders and hated the 49ers, and everybody around me was forcing me to be a fan. So when you don't like the Raiders, it makes you a default Chiefs fan. So I grew up with Buddy Bell and Ed Podolak and Lynn
oh my
Dawson and I grew up with those guys, right?
young
So
generation.
when I was in Las Vegas, I won some award and I got to go to lunch, intimate lunch with about 12 people with Marty Schottenheimer.
Okay.
And I asked Marty Schottenheimer, I said, "Is the Raiders Chiefs rivalry what I feel and see?" I told him, where I was from. I said, "Is that real?" And he goes, "Dave," he goes, "You can coach the Kansas City Chiefs, lose 14." Well, back then it probably was, yeah, it was 16. You could lose 14 games and win two, and both against the Raiders, you get to keep your job.
Yeah.
he said it's a real thing. He said it's a whole different atmosphere. So yeah, good stuff.
All right, Big Dave. I
All
really
right, brother.
appreciate that was fun, man. You made my day. And what's
Yeah.
interesting is, and I'm going to send you this, my next podcast in the next 20 minutes is with a narcissist expert. So I'll be sure to send you that one. So kind of funny how we talked about that.
Yeah, please do that because that diagnostic, and maybe you can even cross-reference this talk. That being able to, you have to diagnose narcissists, and
Yep.
once you do, then there's certain things that you have to do because there's no cure, man. Sometimes you just got to pull the tooth.
I thought you got
I do, man. I still got. I think about you every time. I pull my dental instruments out every once in a while to do something. I always think about you.
click, 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 click.
See, that's right.
Hold on the line for a second
You
and we'll
bet.
stop. I appreciate your time, man. That
Amen,
was
man.
so much fun.